Welcome to Locales Unknown. This podcast gives you the tools you need to choose your next travel destination and the tips you want to be able to explore like a local. Here are your hosts, Chris and Winfield.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of Locales Unknown. We have a real treat for you today, and I'm very excited because my friend Gosia has joined us here on the episode. We actually met down in Mexico when we were in Isla Holbox. She was traveling with her sister all across the Yucatan, and we just happened to be at the same hostel. And before we hit the record button, we were talking about the whole reason we started chatting is because RIP, I lost my Kindle in the pool, and I was reading Harry Potter and was entrenched in the book in the magical world, but all of a sudden it came crashing down. So I had to actually socialize, and I noticed there were other people around me. And so that's how we started talking, and it was an awesome time from there. We spent a couple days in Holbox together, just enjoying, and so thanks for joining us.
Hi again. It's really a pleasure to be your guest here. So thank you very much for inviting me. And thank you for reminding me this awesome time in Holbox. It's really nice memory from there.
Yeah, well, today's episode's not on Holbox or Mexico. We're going to go all the way to the other side of the world here and talk about Poland, where Gosia and her sister are from. But before we make our way over, I would love to know just a little bit more, if you could tell our listeners about your trip through the Yucatan. You guys, if I remember correctly, did close to 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is pretty funny because usually my travels are pretty random. I don't plan the directions, destinations where I go, and this was the only one, just because one time I was traveling to Cuba and I had the layover in Mexico City, and I ate the best nachos ever, and I just decided I had to come back one day. So yeah, then the COVID came up and all that stuff, so yeah, I was just waiting for a good time to go there. And yeah, then we just found some cheap flights and just decided to go there. So yeah, just to make one more dream come true. And we just focused mostly on Yucatan and Quintana Roo, but honestly I prefer the Yucatan part, and the whole bush, of course. It was like a paradise.
Holbox was something special. And Winfield, we actually filmed a couple episodes while we were down there, so I had a chance to fill you in. I mean, you definitely have to get there eventually.
For sure. It sounds like a locale unknown, not to make a too cheesy of a pun, but it's definitely something that when you think about Merida and that whole area, apart from the Riviera Maya, it's a little bit more off the beaten track still, but I guess that's changing based on what you told me, Chris.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just talking to some people that live on the island that have had exposure there for a little while, they've said over the last couple of years, tourism has increased. I myself, and Gosia, you probably recognize that there were a lot of European or other South American tourists that happen to make their way to the island. But I mean, we could spend all day here talking about Holbox, and I don't want to go that direction. In fact, we're going to take it over to Poland and allow you to talk about your home country and tell us a little bit more about your experience just traveling around the country. I know you just got back from the seaside.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. I actually love our Polish seaside, but only out of the season, which is usually in the summertime, and it's so crowded then. But when you decide to go there, like during the autumn or winter, early springtime, it's cold, but it's beautiful. It's a bit like a Scandinavian atmosphere up there, so pretty like mysterious, foggy and stuff. But yeah, we were pretty lucky with the weather. It was sunny and pretty nice. But yeah, Poland in general, I just don't want to focus on our last weekend. Poland is pretty complex. I mean, considering like tourist stuff, it's beautiful. It's very diverse. We have everything. Actually, we have the seaside, we have lakes, we have big cities, we have the mountain chains. So everything you want to find, you can find in Poland. culture is beautiful. History is very difficult, but also very interesting and interesting and beautiful, let's say. Maybe not that beautiful, but definitely interesting. The only thing which is not so great about Poland at the moment is the politics, but I don't know if you want to go into that. It's just not the good times for Poland at the moment.
Yeah, we always think it's important to talk about real life on the ground in these countries, but we try to stay clear of political views and those higher level problems going on, and try to more talk about what's life like when you're just venturing into the country. A lot of people have preconceived notions when they go to certain places, whether it be dangerous or unknown or unsafe. And we're here to kind of, break that stereotype wherever we talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I was always thinking about how people can see Poland, actually, because we're like in the middle of, sometimes people say that we're like in the middle of Europe. Sometimes they say we're more in the eastern part, which is very close to this maybe a little bit more complex countries like Belarus and Russia. Especially, we also have some difficult past with these countries, politically, of course. And yeah, actually, we are the part of European Union. We are a pretty well-developed country, so it's really nice to live here. It's easy considering like the whole world. We're really lucky to live here. We can't complain about the standard of life or anything. Our country is actually beautiful in terms of the landscapes and cities. It's well developed. We have some good jobs and we can afford to travel around. Maybe not the whole world, but especially Europe. It's pretty easy. We don't have any like borders across the European Union, so it's also like pretty simple for us. We feel more like Europeans actually at the moment. Yeah, it's good. I can't really complain. I mean, there is this tough time in politics at the moment in Poland. I don't know. You guys tell me if you want to dig into that, because it's something that is really, I know it's even in some other media. I mean, like abroad media, it's covered by CNN, BBC and stuff. So from our perspective, it's really bad, but still we live in that and we have to somehow survive in that. It's not that bad. I mean, it is, but it doesn't really concern us personally on the daily life. So
without getting too granular, because I as Chris might have mentioned, I have a penchant for history and politics, especially overseas. But we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, as we've said. But just a little bit of context for listeners. Poland historically has been the most successful post-Soviet country in the former Eastern Bloc. Exactly. The economic success has been unrivaled. And really in the past 20 years, it was one of the fastest growing economies to watch around the world. We can't argue with the growth. Now, obviously how we got there, that's an ideological question. So I guess my question is, within the past, let's take 20 years, let's say of our lifetimes, what changes have you seen in Poland, and what do you think has been for the better, and maybe what has been for the worse?
Okay, just to be clear, I am too young to remember what the life was here before the changes, the big changes. So I can't remember empty shops and empty shelves in shops, etc. I was born in 1991, so yeah, it was already nice and full of consumptionism and stuff. So the life was good. It changed for really, really great time when we joined European Union. It grew really like a lot, and it developed both economically, culturally. We gained new chances to travel around Europe, around the world, to study abroad, everything. And yeah, lately we had some political problems, but it's not really an issue. It's not getting us back to the past times from before the big changes in 1989. So no, it's all good. It's all for the better. I don't want to complain. I don't want to be that person who come to you and just complain about her own country. It's good. It's really good.
Well, we love the fact that you're optimistic. and that's what we're all about on this show is optimism. I had the privilege of I've been to Poland twice. The first time I was in Poland was now I'm showing my age. I have to think back to when. I think it was 2009. So I went to Warsaw very briefly, and this past August I was actually in Krakow with one of my closest friends, Matt Alizio, aka
My
the
city.
bestie. Shout out to him. But yes, so that's your city. Oh, very good.
How did you like it?
Oh, loved it. It's fantastic. The home of Chopin, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the entire old town, Dragon Castle, Dragon Lair, you name it, loved it. The keilbasa, the vodka, the piva, everything.
Of course. I don't know what's about this vodka thing. Actually, everybody from abroad, they really think that we don't drink anything else but vodka here in Poland. And it's not true, actually.
Exactly right. And what I learned in the outdoor market there, right in the old market central square, is that the Polish wine scene is actually burgeoning. Solaris, a varietal that I'd never had and is truly unique to Poland, was really one of my favorite wines throughout the entire European trip. I was on the road for almost 2 weeks. And unfortunately, I left it in my carry-on. So it was confiscated at the next airport because I was driving my rental car. Anyway, long story short, let me bring this back to a question. The Krakow, great city, kind of little known unless you're in Europe or are there for an extended period of time. What would you recommend for visitors in terms of kind of an itinerary for Poland if they have, let's say, a week?
For Poland in general, tough question. I mean, we're a pretty big country, but actually it's not because I live here and I was born here, but actually I would start with Krakow, as this is like historically the most important city in Poland. I hope nobody gets angry about me saying that from Poland, sorry, because there is this old fight between Warsaw and Krakow, because Krakow used to be a Polish capital and right now Warsaw is but it's friendly war. But yeah, I would start with Krakow, especially this is very original city. It wasn't destroyed as much as Warsaw was during the Second World War. So it's pretty authentic. And nearby, it's not really a nice place, but this is a place where you have to go when you're in Krakow, which is the Auschwitz Camp. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Not a nice. Yeah. Yep. So it's a really hard place to go, but essential, I guess, when you're in Poland, and not only from Polish perspective, for European and the world history perspective. Yeah, from the maybe a little bit nicer parts, we have the salt mine in Weilicksa, which is right near Krakow. This is like the biggest mine here in this part of the Europe. Definitely the mountains. It's like 2 hours driving from Krakow, so not that far. We have both Tatra Mountains and Bieszczady. I prefer Bieszczady over Tatra. It's not that crowded. It's more wild, more bears and wolves to meet, that stuff. And it's near the border with Ukraine and Slovakia. And I love Polish seaside, but only off the season. Not during the season, like the summer season. It's bad at that time. Whenever you're in winter time, fall time, the seaside is pretty good to see as well.
Sounds like there's a lot to do in such a short little time. You were saying that you prefer the one range over the Tatra Mountains? Yeah, just because of it's the other one's just too much of a tourist destination.
Yeah. I mean, yes, exactly. For me, it's too touristy. If I was the first time in Poland, most probably I would pick the Tatra Mountains, because this is the top highlight of Poland, and most probably it's recommended in all tourist guides from abroad. And this is totally understandable. And I'm not saying it's not great, because it's beautiful. It's really, it has its Alp climate, something like that. It's pretty similar with the landscape and views with the Italian Alps. Actually, these mountains are pretty high. These are more difficult than Bieszczady, so you also need to have some experience, especially not in the summertime because it's very often snowy and slippery, etc. And Bieszczady is more for somebody who already visited Europe, Poland in general, and somebody who is looking for something more off the beaten path, actually. So yeah, that's why I prefer Bieszczady over Tatra Mountains. But I'm not saying that Tatra Mountains are not worth going to, because they're totally worth going to. And the same with the seaside. Of course, if you're the first time in Poland, also summertime is fine. Just if you ask me as a person who lives in Poland, I would do it a little bit differently. So that's why I'm saying. And also there is a beautiful part of Poland in the northeast part, which is Podlasie, and it's full with the national parks. It's all green and full of animals, wilderness, people who actually don't know English. So yeah, it's very nice experience when you just can see the people like living the Polish style, totally Polish style, also the kitchen, etc. So yeah, that's good experience.
I think you hit on a certain point that I'm with you. I like to visit places more in the shoulder season. Not so much completely the dead of winter or the middle of summer when most people think to get to one place or another. But those off seasons are usually the best because you still have some life. So you get to experience things that are open, but you don't have to battle not only the elements, but the people as well, depending on where you're going. So I'm with you in that style of travel for sure, which makes sense because the Tatra Mountains, though, are home to the highest peak in Poland, right? So it's Rice.
Okay.
Oh,
you did.
It wasn't even close.
Nice.
It wasn't even close. But I think it's about 8,700 feet in altitude. And so that's something that has always caught my eye as far as getting over there, because as you know, I may be heading to the Balkan area and Eastern Europe from there. And that's one of the key factors is having a few places that are wild as you're describing. But it sounds like more places than not outside of the larger cities are more unknown, more rugged, more wild.
I mean, we also have some beautiful cities as well. Just it depends what you're looking for. If you're more like urban traveler, you will focus on the cities. Especially our cities maybe are not so industrial. They are more historical sites. So yeah, you have this other thing, the historical value, the cultural value. So of course, if you have to go to Krakow, Wrocław, Warsaw as well, Gdańsk in the north, all of these cities are beautiful. But at some point, if you like nature, you will start to be bored a bit or tired with the cities, and you will start to look for some other places. So yeah, definitely mountains and seaside. We have everything. Whatever you like, you can find it here. And also we have the Masurian district, which is like full of lakes. A lot of people go there for sailing. So they have their own boats, and it's also beautiful. I don't sail because I don't know. I've never learned how to do that. But a lot of people love that. And actually this place is also beautiful. I'm not that into that because you cannot be great in everything. So.
Going back to one of the cities you mentioned, Gdansk, I've actually never been there, and it's been on my radar for a while. Of course, made famous by, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but Weilicksa, the trade union movement.
Gdańsk is actually the place where all big changes started with Lech Wałęsa, our first president, first in a free Poland. So yeah, this is as well the other historical spot which should be on the list if you're interested into history. It's hard for me to say like what is the most interesting thing from a person from abroad. For us, of course, Krakow, Warsaw, Gdańsk, because these are these spots which are very digged into like our culture, our history. So there are a lot of important places. We know all these people, all these streets, and a lot of events were held there. Also the historical ones, as you mentioned. Gdańsk is very important because of these changes from communism to free Poland, and actually it started all the movements across the Europe, the eastern part. So yeah, definitely this is the spot to be, and it's very close to the other nice places. More actually, yeah, like the seasides mostly, like the small towns and beautiful nature. There are not too many big cities other than Gdańsk.
Well, you said it perfectly in the fact that how do you really sum up the most important place or the best place? That's all subjective, right? So just like you were saying, the fact that you prefer one mountain chain over the others is completely subjective. Or if you're going to be an urban traveler, you're going to head more towards the larger cities or go for historical purposes or nature. So the fact that you just shed light on all of that just shows how diverse Poland really is. And I don't think many people think of Poland in that regard when they're, just planning a trip from the US, looking online, maybe going to TripAdvisor or some of these other blogs or websites. So, this is why we love doing this podcast, because shedding light on these type of things is eye-opening to most people that aren't really familiar with what Poland has to offer.
Yeah, and actually this is what you said, that it's pretty diverse, and it's not diverse only geographically, but actually I don't want to dig too much into history, but actually a lot of people say that it's too much, but I think it's not. We've been under occupation for over 100 years, and our country was divided for the German part, the Russian part, and the Austrian part, and actually it had some impact on people as well. And of course, it was like a long time ago, but these cultural differences, still, we're Polish people, we have our culture, but you can see like these differences. But after the unification, it was pretty hard, to unify our culture back into Polish culture as it was before. So it's like the diversity of Poland, it's not only the geography, but also the history. And of course, right now we are more Polish than historically. We don't have that much of these influences, but still there is something that you can find in certain parts of Poland.
Something that is also has a historical element to it that we won't dig too deeply into the origins, but Kaliningrad is on your northeast border. And when I look at the map, it doesn't look like a hard border, but kind of a quasi-Russian military base, but it's supposed to be nice beaches there. I'm just wondering, have you ever been there, or do you have any friends that go there, or is that just something that you just stay on the Polish side?
To be honest, I've never been there, and I don't know anybody who went there. I'm not sure because as Polish citizens, we need visa to get to Russia, but I'm not sure, so it's not granted, but I believe that the Kaliningrad part is out of this law restriction. So I guess people from near the border, they can travel there, I don't know, maybe for work or something, because it's very the standard thing that we travel abroad for work. If you live somewhere near the border, a lot of people work in Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and it works both ways actually. I don't know about Kaliningrad, sorry.
No problem. I'm just something that it's a kind of an aberration on the map when you look at it and you think, what is that little piece of, is that a country? What is that piece of land? Right.
An odd thing. No, we don't even consider that as, of course, this is a part of Russia, but it's nothing really famous or popular, neither touristically or politically. I don't know.
So you don't consider that Polish territory then? That's not.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
All right. That's interesting, because that's kind of what I was getting at. I'm just curious about the historical aspect.
Russian, 100%.
So I know you just got back from the seaside, as we mentioned earlier, and I think you said it was about 7-8 hour drive. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It was nice.
It was, sorry?
It was easy and nice. I mean, sometimes, the roads are pretty good in Poland, but sometimes like the traffic and stuff, but it was good.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, is that usually the way you get around the country, regardless of where you want to head to on car rides?
Yeah, Poland is big and small at once, actually. It depends where you're going and what do you want to do. Yeah, the car is the most convenient, I think. Yeah, it gives you a lot of independence regarding, finding like some spots like out of a city or whatever. Especially we wanted to take our dogs with us, so it's definitely the easiest way. Yeah, sometimes I think I flew 2 or 3 times to Gdańsk because it's like not even 1 hour flight. So if I'm going by myself, it's easier, and yeah, sometimes it's cheaper even. So this is one way, but flying around the country is not that popular actually in Poland. It's more like for business travelers because of course it saves your time. But for like regular travelers, more popular is car and trains, because trains are pretty well like developed as well. So buses are also popular, but it takes longer. It's not that comfortable. So
is the train system part of the Euro system as well?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah, we have all the connections around the Europe, so yeah, it has to be.
Because I know when I was in Western Europe, you obviously have your regional trains, your local trains, but also the Euro, which just makes it so convenient just doing overland travel. So I didn't know how far east that stretched.
Yes, the railway itself is connected with the Western Railway. The thing about our trains are the train types are different, and there are very comfortable trains and very uncomfortable trains, and of course the price goes with that. But the railway itself, it's all connected with the Western Europe. And yeah, the funny thing, when you go to Ukraine from Poland and you take the train, in the last city in Poland you have to change the train because the railway is changing as well, because the Ukrainian part has totally different railway. So it's not possible to go with one train abroad.
Oh, yeah. We've heard all about the Ukraine trail system in a previous episode. Shout out to Misha. Thank you. And he was describing, what was it, Winfield? 53 bunk cabin or something. It was like the world's largest hostel is how I envisioned it. We know all about that train system.
Ours, like I might be pretty lucky because a lot of my friends and family, they have not funny, but like interesting stories about like a lot of delays, like snow in the trains, no air conditioning or anything. But I never experienced that in Poland. I mean, I traveled with trains and I was pretty lucky. Everything was on time and was comfortable, etc. But I know it happens, especially during the winter time, that there is no heating or the window doesn't close or something. It's not very often, but it happens sometimes. So there are comfortable trains and a little bit less comfortable, but it's not bad. It's not bad, really.
Where you were just saying something about the weather, and of course, only boring conversations are about the weather. But I'm curious because when I think of Poland, I do think of extremes, especially in the wintertime. So how cold does it really get there? Do you expect a couple feet of snow, or is this just in my head?
It all depends.
Okay.
I mean, no, actually, it changes. The climate is changing, so also our seasons are changing. Last year, the winter was pretty long, pretty harsh and cold. It was a lot of snow last year, and the temperature was dropping even to minus 20 Celsius degrees. I don't know Fahrenheit how much is that, but yeah, around minus 20 Celsius degrees. So that's really, really cold. But sometimes, I don't know, even 2 years or 3 years ago, it was pretty mild. It was like around 0 all the time, -5, +5. Sometimes snowing, sometimes not. Pretty great, actually. But last year was pretty nice. Actually, I prefer it like winter wonderland, white everywhere, and very, very cold. It's really nicer than this gray stuff that we have right now outside the window. I would show you, but it's all dark there.
I can only imagine. I've lived in places where it's gray. That just creeping up to winter time, it's never good.
Just going back to the trains for a minute, you hit on an excellent point because the gauge is different. Kind of the old Soviet gauge versus the quote unquote Western, i.e., just the size of the dimensions of the rail itself.
Yeah.
The first time I went to Poland was by train from Berlin. So it's relatively easy, I would say, to get into Western Poland from Germany or other places. But from there, it really depends on where you're coming from. The Baltic states, Belarus, some of them have different gauges. And interesting aside that came up a lot at Glasgow, the recent climate summit this past week had to do with a pledge by most of continental Europe to do away with flights within Europe, I think by 2050. And we often think of Europe as one of the best connected regions or continents in the world due to their train system, which I would say it is. But there's quite a bit of diversity and quite a bit of differences within Europe and within countries. And that's kind of contributed a little bit to the demise of sleeper trains, because when you think back to sleeper trains in their heyday, that was the stylish way to get around. Whereas now people think, oh, an overnight train, okay, that might be cool if you're a tourist. But as you said, if you want to get somewhere, just hop on a flight and it's 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Totally, I can agree with that. And as you said, like with this trains and stuff, it's easier to get to the Western Poland. And this is connected to what I said before about this diversity in our cultures, because when we were a part of Germany or a part of Russia, we were connected with their systems, actually. Also, the railway systems, everything, economic systems and stuff. So we were just regaining everything and unifying it, and we were trying to get more to what was in the Western part. So that's why maybe it's easier right now to travel also to the Western Europe, and it's we're better connected with the Western Europe than the Eastern. Yeah, actually, we don't use that sleeper trains that much. It's when we want to go to the other side of the country, we use trains, but also sometimes if you really are short on time, you just take a plane, and it's easier. It's very often cheaper. It's faster. And I know that for the climate, it's not the best, but this is exactly what it is at the moment. And it's nothing to be arguing about here. I mean, the bigger problem in Poland with this climate summit in Glasgow is about the coal mining. So this is our goal to work on, because this is a problem in Poland that we still retrieve a lot of coal in Poland, and also our government is so with closing this up. So this is something we are more concerned about, because actually, we sometimes use planes to travel across the country, but it's not as popular as in Western Europe to travel across your own country, because we use planes a lot and we fly across the Europe, but not that much in Poland. We use it occasionally. But so we have different problems regarding climate here in Poland.
No, exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, is that these problems are both historical, and they're something that we have to think long and hard about. They're not easily solved because there's so many factors and a lot of different voices. But turning to kind of a happier topic, Polish food. Where do I start? Kielbasa, pierogis, you name it, you have
all
it.
the best.
Yes,
so what did
exactly.
you like the most?
I mean, well, that's the thing. So I really enjoyed. Well, let me take that back, because I was living in Florida prior to coming to Poland the second time. So I went to a Polish market in Florida and had a couple different types of kielbasa, which I've always enjoyed. But what was interesting when I went to Krakow was that it seemed a little bit hard to find. You could find it some places, but maybe I didn't go to the right places. But I have to say, in general, the meat everywhere was fantastic. I know that doesn't necessarily appeal to people who are vegetarians, but pierogis are versatile. You have a little bit of everything. You can go vegetarian. You can stuff it with, you name it. but I should be asking you, what's your favorite thing?
Yeah, I like pierogi, and this is the funny thing because you make the totally same mistake as all people in the world do actually. Because pierogi is already plural. You don't have to add as in
no
the end.
S.
It's so funny because all people around the world do that, and I know it's not a problem, and we all understand. But pierogi is already plural in Polish. But
So how do we say one pierogi?
One pieróg.
Pierog.
Pieróg.
Okay.
Pieróg
to
is
know.
single and pierogi is plural. But it doesn't matter. It's just funny for us because like all the people around the world just do that. And yeah, I love pierogi. I actually did them last week but it's really like time consuming. I was pretty bored and I was just looking something to get some stuff to do. So I was preparing some. I love pierogi ruskie, which is like the most typical dish, which is another interesting thing about this name, because pierogi ruskie is translated as Russian dumplings, not Polish dumplings. But this is traditional Polish dish. As you mentioned, all the meat and stuff, it's very popular. I'm not that much of a fan because I try not to eat meat actually. But yeah, I know that we make really good keilbasa and all meat stuff. We also have great bread. The bread is amazing in Poland, and I know that like anytime we travel abroad for longer, I mean not 2 weeks, but when we move abroad, we always miss the bread, the Polish bread. It's so good. What else? We have pretty nice soups, żurek and barszcz, which are two traditional soups, one for Christmas Eve and one for the Easter time. These are pretty great. I don't know if you have had a chance to try this. Żurek is a pretty sour soup with the kielbasa inside and egg and stuff. This is like very, very recommended in all restaurants. Whenever you go there and ask for some typical Polish stuff, they will recommend you żurek and pierogi for sure. And schabowy, which is just a piece of meat just fried in the pan and with some potatoes and stuff. Our food is pretty simple and not that fit if you consider the calories in it, but it's good. It's very tasty. And as you mentioned, of course, vodka for drinks. It's pretty popular in terms of production, but I wouldn't say it's so popular in terms of like social meetings. It's very popular on weddings because it's like a huge party and it's a tradition that you have to drink vodka, especially like the shots of vodka, not in drinks or something. But like on daily basis, we rather drink wine, whiskey, beer, like everywhere in the world. So just like that.
Okay, so if we go back to, let's say, Winfield asks, maybe we're there for a week, what do we do? My question is, how much do I budget? So besides the airfare coming over, what can I expect?
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's an optimistic part as well, because we are a part of European Union, but we don't use euro. We have our own currency. We have zloty, which is pretty cheap currency considering the rates. And the Poland itself is also not that expensive. I would say that coming here, of course, it depends where you're coming from. Most probably from US, it would be a little bit more. Around the Europe, it's really, really cheap. The accommodation, I don't know if you want to hear like the average, what you can expect. I guess like you can find the cheap hostels for around, I don't know, even $5-10 per night. And you can find some luxurious hotels for a few $100s per night. But you can really travel on budget with a pretty nice standard. I wouldn't say we're like an expensive country. You can find like the food for $5 for lunch. I know some shots of vodka or beer for $1 or $2. And it's all in the main square, like the center of the big cities. Of course, in the suburbs, it's cheaper. But when we're just thinking about, I don't know, Krakow or Warsaw, which are the biggest cities, most touristic ones, I guess it's pretty affordable direction to come to Europe. I mean, we're more or less the same as Balkanian peninsula, I guess, more or less. We're definitely cheaper than the Western Europe. definitely cheaper than Italy, Germany, France, Spain. Portugal sometimes is maybe a similar level. It's not that expensive country, but yeah, generally like you can travel on budget and it's fine, and you will survive and you will enjoy and you can really see everything and not resigning because of the money.
Love to hear that. And that puts it definitely higher up on the list. But you just brought up Portugal. And if I remember correctly, when we were in Hobos, yeah, that country holds a near and dear spot in your heart because you've done some traveling yourself outside, of course, just Poland. You've been to Iceland, Portugal, where when I asked you, where should I go? Even above Poland, you said Portugal. So, I'd love to just talk to you a little bit because a lot of our listeners might be on the fence about traveling maybe solo as a female or in a small group and wondering what it's really like out there. So maybe you can shed some light on your experiences and how you kind of traveled as a female throughout the world.
Actually, I traveled solo a few times. Mostly I travel with somebody, but whenever I travel by myself, like a solo female traveler, I very often I hear that it's scary, I should be afraid or whatever. And actually it's totally opposite because I have this feeling and it's really nice and I love to believe in this all goodness in people, because whenever I was traveling by myself alone, I really feel like the people in the other countries seeing the solo female traveler, they have this protective instinct towards these people. And it's not only about being a female, but also about guys. I think the people are trying to be helpful, are trying to show their places from the best side, from the best cultural side as well, that they are really nice, normal people, and that their country is like the standard country. They live here, so it's normal. There's nothing to be worried about, because what is the difference between, I don't know, living in Poland, living in Portugal, in Brazil or US? The landscapes are different, but actually people are great all across the world. And I like to believe in that. I know that bad things happen, but this can happen everywhere. And it really doesn't depend on the country. It's just good or bad luck. But I wouldn't say that it really matters where on earth you are. It's how you behave, and that whenever you are good, the people are good back to you. I like to believe in this karma stuff. So I would say that solo traveling is really nice, and it's very like exploring yourself a bit, because whenever you go solo for the first time, it's pretty scary, but it's not scary because of you're going to some unknown place and you're scared of this place itself. It's because you are solo, you're totally dependent on yourself. Nobody is there. Nobody from your comfort zone is there to help you, to take care of you. This is only you, and you have to handle that. And you have to handle your head, especially. But it's really good experience, and it helps you to understand the world, the people, yourself, especially yourself. It helps you sometimes, to clear your mind and just think about the important things. And it's both regarding the world, your private life, and next travels, next destinations, everything. And really help to appreciate your life, because sometimes when you see other people's lives, you really feel like you're lucky and you don't have anything to complain about.
That overall message that you just said is at the core of what we try to do at Locales Unknown. So, one, the world is not as scary as it might seem, both for female solo travelers as well as maybe groups of females or guys who are traveling solo as well. If we take away the male female aspect of things, you're still going by yourself. It's scary. You're leaving all of the creature comforts, your comfort zone, and what I always call autopilot. So that that you can go through the day not having to think, knowing where you're going to sleep at night, knowing where you're going to eat. Maybe the routine is you take that beautiful dog that's laying behind you out for a walk. But besides that, you know what's going on. When you're on the road, everything changes. So your mind is alert. But I found, and Winfield could attest to this, and I'm sure you can as well, where when you are alone and you're traveling on the road, it's actually harder to find some alone time than if
That's true.
you're not. Because, whether you're in a community hostel at breakfast or you're sitting up by the pool in Holbox, there's always people
Sorry
around
to
you all
ruin
the
your
time.
alone time.
So there's always people around, and you're never truly alone.
That's
And
true.
I think a big element of that is people don't understand that once you leave your home country and you go to these other countries, unless you're going out into the wilderness by yourself, which is totally different, you're joining a backpacking community, you're joining the hostel community, and there's people who are like-minded, who are there, their eyes wide open, full of adventure and spirit, that are welcoming you, not only just the locals, but these travelers too, who want to, join in and have an experience with you.
That's true.
So thank you for sharing that, because it is a big part of what we try to tell everyone here at Locales Unknown.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, that's what you said. You're almost never alone. And sorry for ruining your alone time in Holbox, by the way. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you mean. But actually, this is like, for me personally, it's not a bad thing. Sometimes I need to be alone, but I guess this is more I need to be alone or maybe far from my daily life, far from my daily problems. And I don't mind other people, especially it makes me like, exploring myself, just spreading my horizons. And it's so just educational, like, for life. It's not even like this school knowledge or anything. It's just meeting new people, new cultures, new perspectives. It all makes you a better person because you understand more, and it's good. It's really good. I don't know what to say more.
I think you summed it up perfectly. And, although you might meet a lot of people from different cultures, different backgrounds, maybe different ways of life, there's still that same common thread that you're all travelers. You're all on the road. You're in it for an adventure and new experience. So the word no doesn't usually come around too often as far as do you want to go and try something new, or, it's not one of those environments where you just want to sit back and hang out by yourself. It's, I'm here. I only have a certain amount of time here. I want to get out and do everything. So it really is a great community, great experience. And that's why we try to encourage people to travel solo, with a group, with a pup, no matter what, just get out there and go travel. But we could talk about that all night. What I want to do now, if you're ready, at the end of every episode, we like to do what's known as our lightning round. So we'll ask you 10 questions, and you just go ahead, think of an answer, and let us know.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So question number 1, if you had one wish, what would it be?
No pressure.
It's the first out
They
of
get
the
harder
10.
and harder. So
I don't want to go into some cliche stuff, so I would just say, like, very selfishly, I would like to see the whole world, and literally like whole world, and see all the cultures and meet all people from different cultures, just to know what I'm dealing with in this world, and just to be able, to, because I like to talk about things that I experienced and I know, and I have this knowledge. I don't like to be smartass about stuff that I didn't experience. And I love to this whole storytelling about my past travels, etc., because I know that I have the right to tell you that because I experienced that, and that is true. And sometimes this all, rumors and stuff, it's bad. So I prefer to do it that way. And of course, this is not the answer to your question, but yeah.
there is no answer. It's completely up to you, and I think that's perfect. To speak on what and from your experience, also just it's not selfish or anything. You're enlightening people to the what's out there. So which country do you want to visit the most, and why? And I think
don't do that. As I told you before, like, usually my picks are pretty random. Depends on what, like, cheap flights are coming up. But like the first thing that comes to my mind, I would say that I would like to go to Cambodia, because I was traveling through the Southeast Asia, but never get to Cambodia. And this is like one of these undone things from this part of the world. And I'd love to go to Alaska, because I don't know, I have this image of Alaska as pretty like harsh and very severe. And yeah, I'd love to see that one day.
When the day comes that you make your way to Cambodia, be sure to reach out to Winfield first. If I'm not mistaken, you spent 6 months there. Is that right, Winfield?
Really?
I lived there. No, it wasn't quite 6. It was a little less than that,
Okay.
4-ish. But yes, I have a really great network of friends in Siem Reap, which is where Angkor Wat is, and Phnom Penh is really exploding from what I've heard. Also, Sihanoukville Hookville in the south. So you'll really love it when you go there. But yes, as Chris said, please reach out. I'll be happy to
Nice.
give
Good
you
to
some
know.
tips and put you in touch.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's a wild part of the world, and Cambodia is at one level up in that area. So, all right, number 3. What's one place or thing in Poland that you still really want to do
Still, or
that you
okay,
haven't
so
done
something
yet?
that I didn't do yet. Okay, in Poland, I would. Oh, I know. I would love to explore more the rivers in Poland by kayaking, because I tried it once. It was so beautiful. The perspective is so different than seeing Poland from the land. It's so beautiful. So yeah, I think I'd like to explore more of the Polish rivers by kayak. It's much of a fun. So also highly recommend it.
That's awesome. Are there opportunities to do multi-day kayaking trips? that you know?
I know that
Sweet.
I was only for one day, one time, and I loved it. And I definitely will do that one more time. And actually, this is a funny thing. I started exploring Poland during the COVID time. It's pretty bad thing to say, but actually, when the borders were open, there were always some other places which were higher in the on the bucket list and stuff. So I was just traveling abroad as much as I could. And after this lockdown and everything, me and my friends, we just decided to travel as much as we can through Poland. It wasn't that easy as well, but still. So we explored some more Poland. And yet we just tried this kayaking in Poland, and I would love to do it like multi-days. It sounds like a really, really good fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So, what is the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Oh, I think I've never tried like these odd things, like different animals or stuff or gross things. But there is one thing in Kyrgyzstan, I believe it was, these candies made of the milk of the horse female. I don't know the female horse in English. What is the name for that? But
Mare?
yeah. It wasn't good. It wasn't tasty. Sorry for all Kyrgyz people. It's not delicious, really. It's not. But yeah, I tried these candies. It's really like soury. No. Not my favorite.
Interesting. Do you happen to remember the name or no?
I know that the milk is kumis, and I don't know if candy is has its own name. But the kumis is the horse milk for sure.
All right. What is your favorite thing about Poland?
After all, and despite everything, still people and culture, and the thing that we really survived a hard time, and we're still out there, very proud of it. And yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, a lot of bad thing happens right now in Poland, but it doesn't really matter. All in all, people are great.
People are what make the countries usually. You have your varying landscapes like you were saying, but people are what makes it.
Totally.
So I know this might be hard, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but if there's one thing, what would be the must-see attraction for Poland?
Must see attraction. I don't want to be original right now because it is true that all you can find in the travel guides, this somehow is based on what actually you have to see as a must-see attraction. So of course, Krakow, Old City, Auschwitz, Tatra Mountains, probably Warsaw, and Gdańsk with the seaside. My favorite spot in Poland is Hell, which is not the English hell, but still like with the one L in the end. And it's at the end of the peninsula in the north. It's really beautiful. The whole peninsula is amazing. It's around 35 kilometers long. It's very narrow. It has the bike path on the side, so you can just ride your bike just along the seaside. It's beautiful. It's very green because there are a lot of like forests. And yeah, in the end, and there is even like this monument with the beginning of Poland. Yeah, that it starts Poland, but it's amazing. And there are sometimes, if you're pretty lucky, you can find some seals in the beach. So
It's cool.
Yeah.
All in hell, huh?
Heaven in hell.
So people coming to Poland, what's the one tip you would have for them?
For people to coming to Poland?
Yeah, exactly. Travelers coming to Poland.
Not to get the bad impression if they have some bad luck in meeting some strange people, because I know that sometimes it happens, but it's not the whole picture. So this is one thing. And the other thing is just to enjoy, really. It's a beautiful country. There's a lot of things to do, and everybody can find something for himself, herself. It's really like so diverse. You can do whatever you like, and you will for sure find it in Poland.
So as far as the bad experience, as you first said, is that just because of the cultural difference and communication and attitude?
I mean, it's more because I live here, so maybe I see that more often. But actually, I think this is in the whole world. If you're bad luck, you will just meet some strange people on your way. No, I'm saying that because when I was in Yucatan, we met also the Dutch couple, and they said that they went to Poland one day, and it was around our Independence Day. And this is like very problematic day in Poland, because it should be like very happy and very proud day, but actually it was gained a bit by some nationalists and stuff in Poland. So it's not always that nice. And they even said that they were around November time, these riots in the streets, that you can see that and you can really get the wrong impression. This is not our country. This is not how it actually looks like. We are good, nice people, and you really can have some fun. I mean, like Winfield was in Poland, so I don't know, like, what was your impression coming here, and if you have any good or bad experiences here.
All positive. No, no issues whatsoever. So we'll definitely go back.
So you can just cut off what I said.
Wholeheartedly recommend it.
It's gonna write down, edit that out. No, I think the same could be said about anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Everyone, when you have a mass of people, there's going to be ups and downs, but it's not a direct reflection on the hospitality or
I guess it's also like we're always more critical on our own nations. I don't know if you guys have the same, but here across the Europe, I found it very much that way, that you really like make other nations and countries more perfect. The grass is greener always. Sure. at the other side of the fence, and it's not true. It's just we see more by living in our own countries. We're more critical about that because this is part of our culture. So and I think this is not anything, it's nothing wrong in that, because there's always room for improvement, and both for us personally as nation and citizens. It's just good to see and try to improve, nothing more.
Well, that blends perfectly into the next question, because what motivates you to travel?
Curiosity. I don't know, love for beauty. I like people. I really like people. I like seeing new cultures. Like for me, it's so exciting to go abroad and especially out of Europe. I mean, Europe is beautiful, like landscapes, architecture, everything. But considering cultures, we're pretty much similar. Not the same, but similar. Like whenever you go somewhere further, and you see like totally different cultures, totally different perspectives. It's so like wow. You just feel like totally in a different world. You're just a guest in that, and the people are still so welcoming. I think like people are the best trigger, the best driver for travels. But also, of course, I love summertime and hot temperatures and beautiful views and beaches and everything. So I I won't say that it's only about the experiences, but also nice views, of course.
Sure. And then we kind of covered this already, but what mode of transportation would you recommend for a traveler coming to Poland to get around?
I would say the easiest is the car, of course. The roads are pretty good and it's the fastest, the most independent way of transportation. But also, if you decide not to rent a car or not to come with a car, the railway works great. There are planes. I don't know if I would recommend plane. It's not that popular. It's definitely the fastest, but considering the time that you have to spend in the airport, both departing and arriving, etc., sometimes it's even faster to get there by train when you just got into station like 10 minutes before departure. It's whatever you prefer, actually. Every transportation in Poland is pretty well developed, so no issues with transportation.
That's good. Yeah, each mode provides its different perspective to see the country, depending on how big the country is, right? So I'm about to go join Winfield down in Brazil, being the size, that Brazil is.
Yeah,
Obviously, some
exciting.
flights are necessary, but size of Poland, getting in a car, train, or what about buses? Are there bus opportunities too?
Yeah, totally. And there are a lot of buses. Just I don't find them pretty that comfortable. If I would have to choose between train and bus, the prices are pretty much similar, and the comfort of trains are definitely better. So that's why I'm saying trains. But buses are very popular, and sometimes when you don't have this railway, because there are some parts of Poland when you don't have trains, of course, buses are very popular, and it's like pretty easy to travel around with the buses. So
Great.
as well.
And final question here: what is one experience in your life that you would like to relive?
I wouldn't. It's no, it's not because I don't have great experiences. It's just I really think that something that happened was so unique that it has to stay in the past to be so unique. And whenever you try to make this memory, I don't know, to relive this memory, and you go to the same place, even with the same people, very often it's pretty disappointing because you don't find this charm that was there the same in the present. So I like having these memories in the past, reliving memories, but not reliving the moments.
We always save that one for last because it's usually the most unique perspective. And I have to say that that's the first time we've heard that so far on this podcast. So really appreciate your time, Gosia. I know it's coming up late there, and we're going to let you go. So again, just want to say thank you. This was amazing. A lot of insight here, and hopefully we'll both be able to get over there and see you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It was so nice to see you.
You too.
Thank you so much. Really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it. I'm already looking at hell with one L.
Hey, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Take care. Thanks, Gosia.
Bye.
So without further ado, we're back with another fun fact. Did you know the bagel was actually invented in Poland? I sure didn't. And some records say that it dates back to the 1600s. Others say the 1300s. But obviously beloved all over the world. Something that It's just random, but enjoyable. Till next time.
Well, there you have it. Another fun fact about a locale unknown. Thank you, Winfield, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode with us. We started this podcast in the hopes of shedding some light on the various destinations out there in the world that might be more off the beaten path. And we're hoping we're accomplishing that goal by bringing on our friends and our various guests to give us some insight about their various locations and what to do in the areas. So if you like what you hear, make sure that you follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as the social media platforms out there, because we're back every single week. I wouldn't want you to miss what we have coming up. We already have a couple great guests in the pipeline that we are very excited for, and I think you guys will be too. So we are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on all the other platforms. Locales Unknown. Go ahead and hit the search. When you find us, be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button. And if you're an Apple Podcast user out there, please let us know how we're doing. We're building this for you guys. So scroll down to the bottom of Apple Podcasts and go ahead and leave us a review and maybe some comments there. Also on social media, we are very active on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. We have our YouTube channel, so feel free to go ahead and drop us a line. We have our website, localesunknown.com. You can find all of our episodes there. And if you want to reach us directly, we have our email address, contact@localesunknown.com. Maybe you have some suggestions for us. Maybe you want to introduce us to someone that you think might be a great fit for the show. We are all ears. So once again, thank you so much for listening. We'll be right back here next week with another great episode somewhere out there in the world. Stay tuned.